Well, hi, everybody, and thank you again, Erin, for inviting me. I'm Heather Greer Klein. I'm the Samvera Community Manager, and I am going to give you a Samvera community update. I serve ex officio on the Fedora leadership group and work pretty closely with Erin and Dan, and so I will focus um, in this little update, particularly on ways in which our two communities connect and work together. So I'll give a super quick Samvera overview in case someone hasn't heard it before. I'll give you some updates on our technologies, talk about our latest community activities, and a little bit about what we're doing next. So first up, what is Samvera? So Samvera is a community. It's a community of people who use and grow a set of open source repository platforms and tools and plugins. So you can't install Fedora. I always say Fedora is people. You can't install Fedora, excuse me, Samvera. You can't install Samvera. You can install Fedora. Samvera is people. You can install any of the components and the platforms that the community uses and supports, and you can join the community. So Samvera supported software includes a bunch of individual core system components that might be used to create a custom repository system, and it's built around 3 repository platforms with common use cases that are ready to be customized. So Avalon Media System, Haiku, and Hyrax. And this is a really simplified overview of the stack. All of the software can be stacked together. It integrates with other open source components maintained by other open source communities, including Fedora. So I will give you the latest from these technologies and particularly how they relate to Fedora. So first up is Hyrax. Hyrax has been really busy this year, and a lot of that work is around working on finishing a Valkyrie integration that just allows Hyrax to work with whatever data backend folks want to use, including Fedora 6. So in May and June, the maintenance group was really focused on planning for a Hyrax Fedora 6 community sprint, but also on an accessibility audit. In the Samvera community, we've had a lot of focus in the past year on accessibility, starting with accessibility audits and looking at what improvements we need to make in the software. So the full audit went through the public and private pages in Hyrax and used the Site Improve browser extension, which is free. They categorized issues based on their WCAG level. So it was easy to prioritize what issues were in greatest need of attention. All of those issues have been ticketed. The Hyrax product owner and tech lead looked at the EU accessibility guidelines to make sure that we're also keeping in compliance for our EU members and looked into what it would take to bring our demo sites. We have some demo sites for testing in out-of-the-box Hyrax and spent some time looking at what it would take to bring those up to full compliance as well. There was also flexible metadata work and then this Frigg and Freya migration adapter work. Because with Valkyrie, we sort of use these Norse mythology related names. Frigg and Freya are twin goddesses. So the Frigg migration adapter is to migrate from Fedora 4 into Fedora 6, and Freya is to migrate from Fedora 4 into Postgres. So the idea behind these adapters would be migration that would be passive. Every time a record is touched, it would be migrated, and this would result in no downtime for repositories and an easy way to migrate over. So next up, the Hyrax Fedora 6 working group is finishing up some work that will help with those migration adapters. Daniel and Rebecca will talk about that, I believe, on Thursday in greater depth. The Hyrax community also has some upcoming community sprints. One started yesterday, focused on dependencies. We have a number of dependencies we need to get upgraded before we go into 2025. And then we have a specific accessibility audit in October into November. Anyone is welcome if you're relying on any part of Hyrax infrastructure. You're welcome to help us meet these goals. They're pretty ambitious, but we'd really like to get these things done before the end of the year. And then we're also working on how to convert New Racks is our Hyrax testing sites. We've had one called Stable for a while. We're looking at converting it over to be a testing site that uses Fedora 6. So moving on to Haiku. Haiku is a tenant-based system built on top of Hyrax. It is used extensively by consortia who host repositories for their members, and also by service providers and by some individual libraries. A lot has happened with Haiku this year, but just briefly, the current release is 6.0. It upgraded the underlying infrastructure to Hyrax 5. A lot of work on that migration pipeline. There's a PDF.js viewer and some other improvements that came in as part of the Haiku for Consortia project. OER and EDT data types and Google Analytics 4 support. There is a release coming very soon, probably early next year, that incorporates flexible metadata, S3 support across all assets, and Rails 7.2 upgrade. The other big area of activity in the Haiku part of our community is on Haiku stewardship. Haiku has really, really grown and grown up as a community. It's strong enough to start contributing in new ways. But Haiku is unique compared to users of Samvera technologies in the past who've tended to be larger institutions or organizations that have developers on staff. Haiku is really designed for folks who maybe don't have developers, but would be using a service provider or a consortia. So we're looking at new ways for those types of contributors to help make Haiku the best and most sustainable piece of software that it can be. And so that involves looking at how we do technical and product ownership, community volunteer leadership, specifically for Haiku. And Palni and Palsy Consortia, who are part of the Haiku for Consortia group, they have just received an IMLS grant. This is grant proposal, but they received the grant to help support this. So over the next 2 years, we'll be doing a lot of planning to look at some new sustainability approaches for that community. So that's super exciting. And Avalon Media Systems has also had a lot of releases this year, a lot going on there. And again, a big focus on accessibility as it has been across the community. Avalon 7.8 includes a new component for searching transcripts within the transcript viewer, which is really, really cool. It had some dependency upgrades and some bug fixes and other improvements, but the transcript text is now fully indexed, and you can see in this little screenshot here, you can search within it with the search within transcript feature and jump to specific parts of the audio or video. And Avalon 8 is expected in November, and it will include Fedora 6 support. And I wanted to make sure to mention some of the other tools and technologies that have a home in the Samvera community, like serverless IIIF. This is one that's being highlighted on our website right now. I know that was mentioned by the National Library of Medicine earlier today. And then another that we're highlighting right now is Clover IIIF. IIIF manifests as interoperable web content. Samvera really wants to be a home for these sorts of tools that maybe don't fit elsewhere, but have a lot of utility for not just our existing user community, but other types of other types of repositories, folks who are using custom systems. So that's an area where I think we'll see more and more growth. And the ramp player is also one of these that's a big part of Avalon Media System right now. So to talk briefly about community activities, I mentioned already these critical sprints that anyone is welcome to join. That's been a big focus for us for the end of the year. We also do an annual award, the Julie Allenson Award, which is named for the late Julie Allenson, who was a really important mentor and teacher within the Samvera community. And our award winner for this year is Daniel Pierce from Indiana University, who has been the Hyrax tech lead and has been a big part of working with the Hyrax Fedora 6 working group to try to plan and execute everything we need to do to get that Fedora 6 connector working and help folks migrate. So big thank you to Daniel and congratulations as well are warranted. I want to be sure to mention we have a lot of interest groups in the Samvera community, and anyone is welcome. I think some of our interest groups have a big area of overlap for anyone who's using any part of our tools or would be even interested in using any of our tools, including the metadata interest group. We have a repository management group, and we have two new interest groups that are starting up. A documentation interest group. We're taking a new approach with this to have a group that is not necessarily expected to create a lot of documentation, but expected to sort of find and create issues for documentation that is out of date or missing. And then we'll have community documentation sprints to address those issues. So I'm excited to see how that goes over the next year and what kind of impact that can make on our documentation, which I'm sure, as everyone knows, is always a challenge in community work. And then the other group is the accessibility interest group. With all of the accessibility activity that's been going on, excuse me, in the community over the last year, we're looking towards what's next. How can we be the most accessibility minded repository community we can possibly be, and how can we maybe get out ahead of some things that are coming with accessibility standards around the world. If you're interested in joining any of these interest groups, we have a Samvera community calendar. It's on our samvera.org website. It shows all of the upcoming meetings, and you can add them to your calendar really easily. And there are links there into our Samvera wiki where you can see agendas and get connection information. And just a couple minutes on things we have coming up. We have been doing regional meetings this year instead of a big Samvera Connect in the fall, which we had last year in Philadelphia. This year, we've been doing regional meetings, which has been really exciting. We had a Midwest regional meeting in Indianapolis last week that was fantastic. We will have one in Portland, Oregon next week, and then one in Princeton, New Jersey the following week. And then finally, a Samvera Europe meeting at Oxford University in the UK on October 22nd. Planning those meetings has been really fun. We're doing a lot of unconference style activities, and we're planning to have a virtual community meeting, a lot like what we're doing today at the Fedora community. We want to recap all of the great ideas and updates and things that have come out of the regional meetings and really think about how to carry those ideas forward, either in interest in working groups or the work of our Samvera board going into next year. We're also working on a state of the technology report. I think that will probably be ready early next year. We are increasing the number of case studies that we have on our website and adding to our existing repository tour. We're looking at developers pledging hours for maintenance for next year and recruiting some new community helpers. And for 2025, we always have a virtual connect in early May, and that's a great time to learn more about the community. It's easy to contribute. It's easy to attend. I also wanted to highlight that Open Repositories is going to be in North America this year in Chicago. So I expect we'll have a lot of folks taking part there. And then we will have a big Samvera Connect meeting in 2025, and that's going to be in Mexico City. So this is a save the date for that meeting. So that's all the updates from me. I'm happy to take any questions. Please feel free to reach out to me anytime about anything. And thank you again, Erin, for putting this together this week.